first one is called Reality, Dream, or Nightmare. He shook himself awake into the oppressive darkness. She remained undisturbed beside him, huddled under the comforter with the rounded curve of her back to him. He sat up. Fuck, he said. Fuck. He shook himself from terror to terror, rescued from the horror of what might be to the lugubrious world of what was. He shared none of it with her, and endeavored to bear the shadows of his own creation himself. The sweat pressed into his eyes, and he struggled from his mind, from the dream. Awake, but maybe someday living this dream. It was the same cheery office, warm and comforting, but the bright lights threw off long, reaching shadows. He saw the woman as she always was, her features twisted into a pleasant effect with cavernous wrinkles scarring her face. The pupils in her eyes were swallowing up the color as her mouth moved. "You have a good 20 to 30 years left to you," she said. "You might as well make up your mind to make the most of it." She looked at him, and he followed her gaze to himself, cowering against the arm of the stained and ripped couch, long arms wrapped around a ragged pillow. He watched him raise his head and saw no living face. Angry red tissue ridged and dipped over the contours of what used to be humanity. Gnarled scars covered where hazel green eyes used to be, his mouth a lipless incision, and a cloudy blue tube protruded from where his nose used to be. Awake to the reality of the nightmare. He rose from the bed and made his way through the lightless hallways and rooms. The darkness crept after him, but he dared not turn on the lights because he didn't want to see the creature the shadows cloaked. The doors gave way soundlessly under his touch until he beheld the cabinet where the steel pieces were stored. Memory-oiled muscles clicked and slid the parts together, fingers checking the mechanisms before finally sliding the cold metallic muzzle into his mouth, measuring the distance to the end, awake and trying to wake up. So the next two pieces are supposed to be a stream of consciousness, but while listening to a song I wrote them, but my brain has trouble doing that, so they sort of became these weird short narrative things. This was 24B. Bare, vulnerable palms, flat against rough, unyielding brick, fingers pressing into cracks, bent at the knuckles, scraped, bloody knuckles, head ducked, shoulders hunched, spine curved, and his mouth right near her ear. Wet, hot breath. She stares past him, eyes distant, cold, hard. She is tilting her head away, and he is following. She breaks and shoves hard into his chest, through his chest and her mind. Her palm heel cracks his ribs in her fantasy, pushing fractured, splintered bone into wet, sucking organs. He stumbles back as she screams, her spittle burning his eyes, her words forcing him to the ground. She wipes his spit and humidity from her ear and walks away. He sits alone, not knowing what went wrong and where. His palms are raw and bleeding, and he wishes he could feel the pain over the agony in his chest. He wants the numbness, but it won't come. His apartment lies in pieces around him, her stuff already gone, the only reason it escaped his rampage. His only chair broken, he sits on the floor seething like a wounded feral beast. Her number is changed so he can't reach her to finish the poison he was dripping in her ear earlier. She hurt him. This is her fault. She said forever. She said love. She can't just take it back. She can't just disappear like dust in the air. She promised. No more pain. She lied. She lied. He'll find her. He will. This is number...
Oh, clever.
This is number 27 from that one. He's broken, destroyed, and scarred, but under my hands somehow whole and pulsing and sublime. He disappears without warning, flickering out of existence without a word, and I am left to question his reality until he is on top of me, painted in blood, trembling with wild eyes and white teeth. We scream and yell, I push, and he leaves, and I don't notice until he's back, bleeding on my sheets and falling apart in my lap, my hands mapping the contours of his skull and jaw, taking the few inches he gave me. He always returns like a wayward pet, but I wonder who really owns who, because I could never leave him, and my hands are always out to receive him, regardless of time, crime, distance, and words. His wrecked whisper is my benediction and enslavement. I feel myself drain dry for him, fixing him, angry and accusatory, because he gives nothing until I see he is scraped raw and empty, and I hold his guts in my hands and his heart in my rib cage. He is insidious and mine. This is a short, untitled poem, just sort of in the feel of Halloween. Crawl into my mouth, let me eat you. Swallow you down, hot, slick blood dripping off my chin, gristle stuck in that stupid gap between my back two molars. And this is my final piece. It's called The City of Rumors. I'm in that space between fully functioning consciousness and the oblivion of sleep when my lover speaks. What have you heard about the city of rumors? She whispers, and I shift in her arms. Cyrilla, Slate, I murmur, please. I lean more into her warmth and speak the words before I really even have time to think about them. I heard it's always changing. The streets move under your feet as you walk, and there is no method to it. You know everyone and no one because you can almost never find the same person twice. Some people say it's actually a really small city, and it only feels big because of its mercurial nature, but I think it's bigger than any city we have ever encountered. No one owns any property because once you leave a building, your chances of ever seeing it again are slim to none. There are no locks or chains, and people sleep side by side with strangers without fear. It's not that the city is without violence or hate, but most people have come to the understanding that if you ask, most people will give. It's a city of nomads and hermits. Some respond to the uncertainty of the city by barricading themselves into small rooms and nurturing rooftop gardens, while others embrace it and travel to the hermits to bring them food and news, because news is sometimes more necessary than sustenance. My voice is rough with sleep, but there is nothing I will deny Cyrilla. What about the lovers? She presses her question into the back of my neck with a kiss. They wander the streets tied together by lengths of rope so the shifting city cannot separate them. Ankle to ankle, wrist to wrist, ankle to wrist, waist to waist, neck to wrist. It all tells you so much about their relationship. And then there is one couple who roam the city only holding hands. Their faith in their love is so strong that they know no city can keep them apart. If anything, the city bends to their footsteps. Will we ever visit the city of rumors? She asks. When we figure out how to extract it from your imagination, yes, we will visit. And we will be the hand-holding lovers. Yes. Thank you.